And sometime maybe in future when BABOK is revised, I will have some opportunity to get one of these techniques or some of these techniques included in the BABOK itself. Okay, so just coming back to the topic, and let me just first thank you anyway for IIBA South Florida chapter for providing me this opportunity today. I have been talking in many of the IIBA webinars, and almost in a year, I take 3 to 4 webinars with IIBA, and I do other webinars for Adaptive as well. And thankfully, we have been able to touch maybe about 5,000 business analysts in a year, which is a very, very decent number, I would say. So how many of you really don't think there is no need for improving BABOK techniques? Anyone who thinks that BABOK techniques are ultimate and they cannot be further enhanced? I don't think anybody would say, because it is always the case, and I used to really love this company's tagline, which they changed, unfortunately. All of you would know the company called Hewlett-Packard, and Hewlett-Packard used to have one tagline, which used to say, there is always a better way. That means whatever you are doing today, you will always find a better way to do it if you put your mind into it. And that is what I also constantly believe. Every year I try to improve something on my personal front. So I almost take it like a policy or a personal rule that every year I will go for a new certification. So every year the new IIBA certification comes in, I'm probably one of the first 50 to 100 to take the certification. And in that process, I have actually completed all 6 certifications from IIBA. I completed a couple of certifications from PMI. I completed a couple of certifications from Scrum Alliance. So almost practically every large body in the organization, I'm doing something or other to learn a topic new. So my this year's target is to get the product ownership analysis certification, which possibly would be launched in Q3 of this year. So quickly, 2 minutes about our company where I work. Our company name is Adaptive US. We are one of the premier education partner to IIBA and possibly the largest provider of IIBA certifications today. And in fact, last year we were looking at our numbers, and all total about 2,000 professionals completed IIBA certification throughout the world, and 200 plus came from us. So that's like a globally 10% market share in the IIBA certification market, which I would say would be pretty good because there are probably 200 EEPs around the world which provide IIBA certifications. So let's start with a very simple technique which is there in BABOK, and all of you would have seen this technique by the name Stakeholder Map. So fundamentally, what Stakeholder Map is trying to help us is categorize the stakeholders into 4 groups. One with high impact, high influence, low impact, low influence, and the other 2 categories, which is of course very, very useful. But then in life, sometimes you come across a situation that the critical stakeholders are of 2 types. Okay, some of them are in favor of the project, some of them are not in favor of the project. And that is what I tried to do, because this was a clear experience for me with one of our large projects with a client, where there were few client managers who were in favor of the project, and there were very few strong client managers who were very much against the project. And then, of course, what I did, I actually bifurcated these critical stakeholders into 2 parts. So I said, let's take the critical stakeholder group and divide them into 2 categories, one which is negatively inclined and one which is positively inclined. And then this is where the beauty comes. So maybe Pradeep, which stakeholder category among the 5 that I have represented will be of highest concern to you? Pradeep, what would you say? Hello, all of you are muted. You can speak, I don't think. Or is it required for the administrator to unmute you?
Are you asking to me?
Yes, Pradeep.
Well, I think it would be negatively inclined.
Very
It would
right.
be very difficult to handle.
Correct. Because these are the people who can create significant trouble for you. Okay, so I would put these guys, and I would be really worried about this category of stakeholders, because these are people who are very powerful, influential, but they are against the project. Why they are against the project could be any reason. Maybe they believe that you are not the right partner to work with. They have some genuine concerns about the project which has not been addressed due to whatever reason. Okay, or they have a personality clash with the sponsor. Could be anything. But if you can identify these set of people and you can strategize that how do you really handle these stakeholders. So one thing could be we try to understand what is it that is motivating them to be against the change. And if you can understand that cause and then act on it, you would probably be very successful. So it's good for any business analyst to get into this kind of stakeholders, tell them what could be the reason why they could be opposing. I'll give you one example where I worked with a very large government organization, and we were trying to privatize the government organization. It's not an easy project when you try to make a government entity into a private entity. So obviously the employees were very unhappy. Many of them were very unhappy with the change because government jobs come with security, which may not exist in private. And that is what troubled them. So I kind of went through a few examples, and I found another government company which had actually naturally died because it could not manage its revenue and expenses well. So that example, when I said with this stakeholder saying that, hey guys, see, that other company died, and would you like to die? And if you don't pull up your performance, that's what is going to happen to you as well. And then the support for the project improved significantly because they realized that they cannot behave in a way which will be detrimental to the organization itself, which is what they were doing. So this is one small improvement to the stakeholder map, and I trust you will find this very, very useful whenever you do your stakeholder analysis. Any question on this technique that we discussed just now? All okay? Let's see. Okay, there are some chats. Okay, good. So then let's go to the next technique, which I believe many of us know for a very long time, and which is called the CRUD matrix. That's there as part of BABOK roles and permissions matrix. And this has been a very fundamental technique that we have been using in software development world for a very, very long time. But over a period of time, things have started changing. And then you realize that delete is an operation which is actually not very useful, and it can be dangerous as well. Because once you delete data, it's lost forever. And that's not a process which is good to follow. In fact, now few technologies like blockchain even do not apply update. So they have only two operations, create and retrieve. So I modified this technique to make it a little different, and the technique I created is called query. And the reason why I called it as query is because you have create, update, retrieve, and I added two more operations, which is import and export. I removed delete because I found that delete is not actually a good operation to have. And in many systems today, when you look at, you are typically looking at an import functionality. That means the data can be brought into the system, or export functionality where the data can be taken out of the system. So instead of using CRUD matrix, I would request you to use the query matrix, because that matrix is much more helpful. One, it does not have delete, and it has two more operations, which are very, very commonplace today in terms of our software development world. Is this technique making sense?
Hi, Ellen. This is Kruti.
Yes, Kruti.
Yeah, good morning. I have a question over here. Actually, the delete system, we cannot delete from the system completely, because wherever there is an organization, when the employee is exiting from the company, that time HR role is to delete that employee from the company database. So that time, how the delete operation will be completely removed from the system?
No. You're making a mistake. Don't see that as delete. It's actually an update with a status saying that this employee no longer works with us. It's not that you delete employee data. Okay, I'll tell you where delete is still helpful. I'm not saying that delete is not helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may be bound by government regulations or client regulation or client requirement that you should not keep their data beyond certain time. Like if you have done some transactions or you have access to certain data, they would allow you to keep it for a certain period of time, maybe 1 month, maybe 1 year, whatever time they have agreed to share with you. Post that, you are supposed to delete that data. You are not supposed to keep it with you because of data security requirements. But the example that you gave is actually inappropriate, because you are not supposed to delete that employee data. What you are supposed to do is to take a status on the employee, convert it from active to inactive. So it's
in that case, suppose the company which I was working in like long time back, if I'll give my employee ID or my name is still exists in that company?
Of course, it will exist. They may not tell you the data. That's a different story because of data security reasons, but the data will be there with the company. In fact, think of a situation, Pratideepa.
Yeah.
If you are rehired, can an employee be rehired?
Can be rehired, but what I'm saying that employee number cannot be same as the previous number. It will be changed because that's a unique ID which the company is giving you.
No, that is just employee ID. That is not reused. Reuse is different from delete.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So please remember, most of the data that we have in commercial world, barring those which require regulations for delete, usually don't delete data.
Okay.
That's not a good practice. And keep it, because who knows, in future you may need that data.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So now we will not adhere to the CRUD system, like the questionnaire which will come for CBA examinations point of view, or it is going to be changed in the later version, like from B3 to B4.
No. Don't confuse what I am saying with what you write in the exam. The exam is based on BABOK. This is something beyond BABOK.
Okay. I will.
Obviously, the intent is not to tell you this is for exam. No, this is something that you can use as part of your work. That is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Then let's take it. Sorry, Pradeep. Yes.
Well, in that case, if I say updating data as inactive is a better way, I mean, it's better than delete. Am I correct? Or?
True. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then let's take a look at the next technique. And I believe some of you might have seen this technique in BABOK. which we call the business model canvas. It's actually one of the fantastic models that I have seen, and it brings in a lot of clarity about any organization that you are dealing with. The customer segment, the revenue, the channel, customer relationship, lots of very, very useful information. But it is still lacking few things. So when you look at how do you represent your company strategy in this case, how do you represent your customer vision or organization vision? These are missing here. Risk management missing here. So what I did, I took this foundation and I created a slightly different canvas, which incorporates what is there in business model canvas, but it builds on top of it. So if you see here, so this is what I created as the new canvas, and which I called it as BA canvas, because this is something business analysts can use. And if you see here, it does have aspects which we saw there, like customer, revenue, products and services. Those things are there. But on top of the canvas, I have put vision, goal, and objectives. Because everything that the organization does, it should be moving towards its vision, goal, and objectives. And then I have put external environment, internal environment, because these are very important for any business analyst to understand what's happening in the marketplace. Okay, what kind of features our competitors are bringing up? Because if we are not tracking competition, we would lose out. Okay, because competition is not sitting constantly. Okay, then I kind of created this kind of a framework, including risk management and all, which will help us to manage our business a little better. And then I also indicated these small icons, like these red dots, and I constantly use these traffic light indicators. And those could indicate that this aspect is not doing well or doing well. Green means you are doing reasonably well. Yellow means you are doing moderately well. And red means you are probably not doing very well. So that way, stakeholders can figure out that on this aspect, they are not doing well. And obviously, it requires some kind of improvement to that particular area. Okay. So any question on this particular canvas, which is a little improved version of business model canvas? Okay, good. So this is one more canvas which you can do. Oh, thank you, Randy. It's actually quite nice, and I don't know why that simple thing is not highlighted as much. It's so nice. It's just a red dot, green dot, yellow dot. You don't need to do very many things, but that immediately showcases the aspect to the stakeholder, saying that on this aspect we are not okay, and on this aspect we are okay. Good. Then coming to another very popular technique, which we have all used, and I have really used BPM model for a very long time. So every time I have a question, I always go to the BPM model and try to figure out where things can be improved. And process model can be humongously beneficial to BAs, because when you draw your process very clearly, you look at different time that you're taking for different tasks, then you can figure out where is a flaw in the model. But I still find that for development purpose, especially when we are giving this to our developer friends, it's still lacking a lot of information. So I tried doing the process model in a slightly different way, and I could actually integrate two more aspects, state and data, in one single diagram. And because I was handling process, state, and data, I called it as fusion model, because it fuses three models: status, data, and process. And this is how I drew that model. And if you see, what I have done is I have added the statuses here, a simple text boxes, nothing great. Okay. And every time there is a process or task happening, the state is actually being changed. And this is something very helpful for the developer because they understand once this particular transaction is carried out, the status is supposed to change from A to B. And you could also draw your process diagram, data diagram. One, you can actually show the data flowing from here to here. Like say, for example, here the contractor details are flowing from ICB data to submit ICB data task. And the data is being stored here in the ICB system. This was a project that we did for a client, and that project name was ICB. It was called ICB something, in-country value. That's how the name came, and it was a very popular concept in many countries, especially countries which give a lot of work to contractors and companies outside their own country, and the governments would like to track the spend on the projects. So this is one simple technique. If you try, your developers get much better idea. So I trust you can try this, although it's not a very standard technique in UML. But this can be very, very helpful as part of your work because I have seen this picture brought a lot of clarity to our development team. So that's why I continue to follow this. So it's quite nice in that way. Any question on this particular technique?
So Ellen, is user model and data model a same model or it's different? Because this is also describes the entities, classes, and data objects related to the domain.
It's more of data flow diagram. It's not data model. It does not show you how data is structured, but how data is flowing that you can indicate.
So we can say it's a DFG, right? Data flow.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's trying to combine process flow, state model, and data flow diagram.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Then we move to another technique called scope model. And all of us have seen scope models. Like here, I have put the use case diagram, the functional decomposition. But I have one challenge with this. The challenge that I have is they typically indicate in scope. I have not seen. Have any one of you seen out of scope or doubtful scope in these diagrams? Possibly no. Okay. Maybe in functional decomposition, you can do that by putting a color code. It is possible that suppose this one, I could convert it into red color and say that this is not in scope, but usually that's not the practice. So I thought of a very simple way. And again, I used traffic light indicator. As I said, I love traffic light indicators. And I created this simple model. So I just created 3 buckets, one green bucket, yellow bucket, and red bucket. In the green bucket, I put what is in scope. What is that we have decided that the product will do or the application will do. In yellow, I put what I am still not clear, whether should I do, shouldn't I do, for some whatever reason. And of course, in the red bucket, you can say these are aspects which we are not going to make a part of the product because it's probably not aligned to your project scope, or it's very complex, very expensive, and that is why you keep it out of scope. So that's what I called it as a traffic light indicator scope model. And possibly this is the simplest scope model that you can find. And I trust stakeholders also be very, they will find it very easy to understand what is being said because everybody understands the traffic light. So this is again another small thing that I created, which would help me to kind of communicate easily to my stakeholders. Okay. Then we move to another technique, which again I have extensively used as part of my project. And I actually learned it from a client because they were using this technique. And I made it part of my learning process as well. So typically, if you look at a data dictionary that we use in conventional IT systems, this is a typical data dictionary. So you have a data type, data format, field size, some description, and some example. Okay, so this is okay to start with, but the developers probably don't get a lot of information from here. So what I did, I took this data dictionary and I extended it, and I called it as extended data dictionary. So that extended data dictionary has many more attributes compared to the standard data dictionary. And trust me, when you provide enough detail to a developer, the probability that the developer will make his or her own assumption comes down. Because when we don't provide certain things, they automatically assume. That's very natural. So what are the things that I kind of added to them? So I started adding things like whether is there a minimum value that you are considering? Is there a maximum value that you are considering? Is this attribute editable? How is it aligned? Is there a specific business rule that you would like to apply to that field? If it is a lookup, is there an order? Is there a default value? Are there some seed values that you would like to provide it to the developer? Expected data values, that means how big would you expect it to become? Would it be 10, 20, 30, or 3000? Okay. What would be the next control once this control is completed? Is it linked to any other field? Are there fields dependent on this field? Is there a specific behavior that you would like to exhibit on this particular field or control? Is it connected to some legacy system? Okay. So if you look at it, when you go through this kind of a detailed data dictionary, the chance that you will provide your requirements very, very clearly to your stakeholder is very high. Some people tell me, Ellen, this kind of a matrix will take a long time. I just tell them when you don't follow, you would simply be struggling post fact. It's not that these aspects don't matter, just that you will know them later. So they'll come back to you as a change request. And the good part is, as a business analyst, most of the data we should be able to provide upfront, and we may have doubt. I'm not saying that we are completely aware of everything. So whenever I have a doubt, what I do is I flag in some of these fields in yellow color. So what I would do, suppose I'm not very clear if there is a default value. So this I prepare in Excel. So it's very easy to do. Just because it's an image, you're finding it difficult. So what I would do, suppose I am not very aware what will be this, I will essentially yellow it. Like I'll put a fill color, which is yellow. So my stakeholders know that this is something that I don't understand. So they would help me to get this data. So on the data that I'm very confident, I leave it as it is. But if I'm not confident, I mark it as yellow. And of course, I expect my stakeholders to review it so that we are in sync and we have actually translated the requirements reasonably well for our developer friends. This is actually a wonderful technique which I learned from a client, and of course, I improved it over a period of time. But this is very, very helpful in terms of providing detailed guidance to our developers. So any question on extended data dictionary? No? Okay. Then let's take a look at something called NFR, which I believe all of you have seen in BABOK as well. And the NFRs are explained in BABOK to some extent. But one of the challenges that I faced as a business analyst is the testing aspect of NFRs. Because NFR testing is not identical to functional requirements testing. Functional requirements testing is very simple. Provide an input, expect an output. That's how most of the functional testing happens. But you cannot test NFR in that same way. So what I did, I created an NFR template, which is much more detailed. So I called it as an NFR checklist. And it also provides how to test these NFRs. That's what I did in the Excel. So I think, do I have the Excel here? No. Let me do one thing. Let me just share it once more. And I will probably share my screen so you can actually view the template as well. I'm quite happy with that template. I'm a very templatized person in a sense, because I believe we can actually capture our knowledge, learning using these templates so that anybody else who comes after you, they can use these templates to make their work better. And sometimes I think I should go back to IIBA and probably offer this as a product from IIBA, saying that here is a set of templates which is reviewed and approved. Of course, I would like other BAs also to review and approve before they publish. But that can be a great help to the BA community, because all of us need good templates. So I'll just show you the template. BA templates. So this is called the NFR template. Over last 25 years, I have created 1250 templates, because I have worked so extensively on this space that this has become a second habit to me to create templates. And in fact, probably this week, we are going to release a set of templates for agile business analysis and product management. So if you observe here, so this is the template I created. Of course, some of them are there in BABOK, some of them are additional. There is a short description. And we also have said, when would this NFR apply? And if you observe, in many things, I would say most, because mostly they apply. And some of them could be very specific, like regulatory compliance is a lot more in healthcare, aviation, banking, insurance, those kind of sectors. Okay. So something like escrow would apply if you are purchasing a product. Okay. And then I have added two more columns here saying, in your particular project context, does this apply? If not, then if it is yes, then you should make it available, because that is applicable to you. And then how you can test. So I have provided to most things. You could use a checklist, you could use application code, you could take some customer feedback. Many ways you can do it, but the best, I would say, most suitable approach to testing is something that I have put it in the rightmost column. So this is the checklist which I created. So let me see if there are some comments. Thank you. So I think I should reach out to IIBA at some time and see if we can make these templates as part of the offering of IIBA. I don't know whether they will accept, because it comes from one organization, but we are willing to share it with IIBA, and maybe IIBA can take over and make it better by talking to different stakeholders. Okay, so back to our discussion. So this is what I was explaining, how we have improved this NFR template. And trust me, NFRs are something that we must capture very early, because once the solution design is done, it's very hard to change NFRs. So having a good comprehensive list of NFRs is very helpful, especially if you are developing a product or you're developing an application. Today, of course, we use a lot of web-based applications from clients or other organizations, which typically take care. But yesterday, I was checking a very internationally acclaimed product. It wasn't actually working on Opera browser, which is very surprising because most of the products you see in the market, they are multi-browser compliant, but maybe they missed it. Or they don't want people to use Opera, they just want people to use Chrome. Then another technique which I found reasonably difficult in BABOK, and in fact, this is one technique which I wish BABOK changes quickly. Because it is so confusing in terms of color scheme. You can observe that the same type of colors are used. Now, this is high value, this is high performance gap, identical color. Now, if you merge two identical colors, then the distinction doesn't lie. Okay, so it's very hard for a person to really use. So my request to IIBA would be to make this particular technique a lot simpler. And I tried one approach. I'll show you. What I did is to create something like this. Okay, so I said I would put the capability in the outer rectangle, and I would give it a name like say business digital marketing. And within that, I would create two circles. One, I would indicate the business performance. Okay, but again, I also have to be careful in the color scheme because if you use a red, green, amber scheme, again, you'll run into trouble. So maybe you have to come up with two different color schemes. So one would indicate performance, one would indicate risk associated due to lack of that particular capability. Okay, like say, for example, if you look at adaptive, digital marketing is a very critical business capability. Our performance is getting better. It's still yellow. I wouldn't put it as green. And the risks are very high because the market or the technology is changing so quickly that you really have to be on top of that capability. That capability by design is a very, very agile capability. That's what I would say, because every other day, something or other new coming to digital marketing. So certain sectors of the economy are always a lot more volatile than certain sectors. So that's what brings in a lot of risk to the company as well. You cannot rest assured that I did something good 6 months back and it's going to continue. Probably not. Okay. So this is again a small change to the particular way BABOK. Yeah, so I think what we need to do is probably, because I have indicated the letter R, so you will be very clearly be able to visualize that this is what is risk and this is what is performance. That's why these two letters are important for you to have it in the circle. But maybe there is even a better way to do this technique. But this is one technique I for sure would like the BABOK team to work on and make it much more usable, because I haven't seen many people using this technique because they're struggling in using this technique. Then let me come to another technique called Keno Model, and Keno Model is an absolutely lovely technique. And I have applied this concept in my project and I have seen tremendous value. Like I remember a project in which we did something extra, I'll tell you. The whole project was about 100 person years, 100 people working for 1 year. And in that project, we did a small task which took us about 7 person days. So imagine 100 person years versus 7 person days. It's insignificant, negligible, okay? But that 7 person days of effort got a mention in the sponsor's closer speech. He was so happy that we did that 7 days of extra effort. It really didn't matter. Like if you see we are talking about a number which is 365 days, okay, in a year. Assume 250. Even if you take a working day, 250 into 100 people. Okay, so we are talking about 25,000 percentage of effort. In that, this is 7 days. What fraction of it? Like if you see 7 divided by this. No, I made a mistake. I think 7, you have to multiply in bracket. Okay. This is the fraction of work we did extra. And what we did actually earlier in those days, we used to submit big, thick manuals, user manuals to the clients. And we said, no, this time we are not going to do that. We are going to make it into a website where you can come and take a look at the content. So the content was split into multiple small pages, which we already had. Just that put it into an HTML format. But it made so much difference to the client, the way they looked at us. They were very happy with the project. And we got a good project award also for that, because the project was very, very successful. So that's when I remembered Keno Model, that there are things that you can do a very little. You don't have to do much, but the client sees tremendous value. And if you can identify such features, they're very helpful. But over a period of time, in IT, we actually find another type of feature, which I call as unattractive attributes. And I see that very often. And I've seen in many products, it sends excessive alerts. One typical one is Jira. I don't know how many of you use Jira. Jira sends, sometimes I worked in a client project, it was sending me 700 alerts in a day. Who is going to monitor 700 alerts? Okay, so you are thinking that you're doing something good because you're providing more and more alert. But that is not making it attractive. It's actually making the product unattractive. Another company with whom I struggle is Microsoft. You go to their Microsoft website, you forgot your password, the captcha that they will provide, nobody can make sense. I don't know what is it that they're putting such a huge algorithm which no intelligent human being also can see. And I don't consider myself to be very unintelligent. Been in this field for 25 years, done so many projects. Okay, but the captcha is simply you cannot make out. Another thing I see a lot of people doing, asking too many details in one go. Maybe you are thinking that you are doing good because you are asking for so much info, but the other party, he or she is finding it so hard. So this is the attribute that I call it as unattractive attributes, and presence of them actually destroys your value. It does not increase value or doesn't keep it constant. Like at least in the Keno model, your value is not eroding, but here the value actually erodes. So if you have such attributes, you have to be very careful and keep them to the bare minimum. I'm not saying that don't have them, but keep them to a bare minimum so that you are not troubling your stakeholders. So it's like you are doing the work and troubling people. That is what is happening. Yeah, Microsoft website is really pathetic. And I sometimes don't use their website because of this captcha. Who is going to spend time on this kind of such a complicated captcha? Anyway, they can think of some better way. Then we come to another simple technique which all of us have used often, which is called brainstorming, and it's a very, very powerful technique to generate ideas. But there are some risks with this technique as well. Especially one of the things that I have seen is groupthink. That means if 3 people say something, others agree. That's what we call it as groupthink. Then there could be a dominant personality in the discussion, and that person could dominate the whole discussion. Then generally brainstorming is very positive way. It never comes back to the negative situations, which is again a danger, because you have a tendency to kind of go on the positive spiral. And usually I also don't see a lot of ideas being generated, although the concept is to generate a lot of ideas. So there are few other techniques which you can apply along with brainstorming, which is not there in BABOK, but can be very helpful. One is called brain writing, which means before you start your brainstorming, you write down your thoughts. That's brain writing. Then you could use something called brainstorming paradox, which is meant to identify negative situations, hacking, willful data manipulation. Those are part of brainstorming paradox. Six thinking hats has been a great technique. I wish BABOK should have included, because I find this technique very powerful to kind of think in a holistic manner. Another simple technique I found, which can be very helpful, is called 6536. Just a number, but it has a meaning. You take 6 stakeholders. Every 5 minutes, you ask them to give 3 ideas. And you repeat this 6 times. You will be able to generate 108 ideas. Even if you don't give 3 ideas, you give 2 ideas, you will still get 72 ideas. 1 idea, even then you will get 36 ideas. Okay, so this is one simple technique which we all can apply during brainstorming to generate a lot of ideas. Okay. So I trust all of you must also be coming across situations where you have tweaked the technique and found better value. I think it's a good way to publish it as a blog and kind of invite people to comment on the blog, edit the blog, something I would do, because I believe many people try new things, and maybe we will be able to actually come up with a good and it's a slightly better technique than what BABOK has. And there are a lot of initiatives we BAs can take together. Like I was in the process of creating 100 top risks that business analysts face. That's a very great resource for anybody who is trying to improve business analysis profession. So I'll continue my journey. I'm hoping in 2021 we would be able to do a lot more for the BA community. We are looking at a situation when we can have shared access to many tools, which we already do. For some of our students, we do provide MSVCO, Jira, more for a learning purpose, not for using it commercially, but maybe more and more tools we will make it available for our student community, so that overall, as a BA community, we are improving our skills. So this is the best way to reach me. Some of you may already know me. My name on LinkedIn is very simple as my name, Ellen Mishra. So do stay connected. Any question at this point in time on whatever I discussed today with you?
Is Keno model there in BABOK, this technique?
Yes, Keno model is there in BABOK.
Okay.
Any other question?
Oh, I have a last question.
Go ahead.
So when are you going to take the next session regarding the techniques? I'm looking forward to it.
This one is a very, very unusual technique, because the request came from the chapter I did. I generally don't do this often.
Okay.
But maybe I would speak to IIBA and we could hold this session once more, because I believe there are some more new techniques on which I'm working. And maybe there is this agile BA thing which is coming up. So I could speak to IIBA and organize a webinar through them.
Yeah, because last month you conducted a webinar on how to learn a new domain in less than 30 days, which I had attended. So,
no, I think
yeah.
I have a webinar due probably in the month of June. Maybe
Okay.
May, June sometime. So it's not maybe before that actually. Because usually I have a commitment to do one webinar a quarter with IIB.
Okay.
So
Okay.
next webinar should be sometime soon.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I have actually a question. I really liked the part of the presentation where you had the performance indicators and on the canvas, your version of the business analysis canvas.
Oh, okay. Yes,
And
let me go back.
Okay.
It's somewhere here. 1 second. Yeah, this one.
That one,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, it kind of reminded me a little bit of how, I mean, I'm noticing more and more in the workplace that understanding the internal environment as well as the external environment is just extremely valuable from a competitive analysis standpoint, but also from managing stakeholders. And so
Yes.
I was wondering if you have any recommendations on how to measure the performance of those different environments.
Maybe you can create a simple checklist, I could say. Look at some parameters and kind of make a decision matrix or not a decision matrix exactly, like a weighted average index. That would be a good way. Maybe I can work with you and we can build one, because I am working with this government by the name Cayman Islands government, for which we are trying to create some kind of a framework for strategic business analysis, which is little above IT business analysis, because government is a very different entity.
Yeah.
It doesn't operate like a commercial entity. And they do not measure themselves in the way that we measure, like mostly we measure profit, revenue. They are not looking at profit revenue as the primary driver.
Right.
They're looking at more on the impact on the economy, those kind of things they're looking at. So there's some work happening on that side. Obviously, if you have some time in future, I could build a simple technique first, and then we can debate and make it better and publish it as a paper as well.
Oh, very good. Yeah, it really resonated with me also with the unattractive attributes that you in your Keno model. I think it's similar to like the internal environment and understanding it and being able to measure the success of it. Sometimes those unattractive attributes can be just a lot more revealing about where when it comes to what adds value.
Sure.
So, I really like how you incorporated that in your model.
Okay. Any other question from anyone else? We just have another 2-3 minutes left. No? Okay. Thank you folks for joining today. Thank you, Randy and team, for getting this organized. I'm glad this presentation has come up well, and maybe it requires a little bit of an update. We'll do it and then share it with IIBA as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. This was really
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Maybe we can take one photo together. Just be on.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, it's good. Edgar has an interesting photo. If you can turn on your camera for a minute,
Okay,
maybe photo.
Right.
Okay, who else is there? Hitesh. Oh, it becomes so big.
I understand.
I too.
What happened? So many have dropped. Okay, then I think there's no point taking. Oh, anyway, we'll still take a photo. Whoever is there will at least take a photo. Done. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.